Good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome to Sales Chatter, the logistics podcast where we try to help 10,000 reps hit a million GP. I'm your co host, Ryan, aka the Logistics Monk. With me is my good friend, President CEO of RGTX Logistics Solutions, the bodacious cowboy, Jeff Dickinson. How you doing this morning, brother?
Great, my man. It is Friday, and today is the finale of Empowering Women into Logistics. We have two heavy hitters in the industry, trucking industry, that is. We have Shelley Walker from Canada, and we have Ellen Voie from the US. Let's get into this now.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
I still can't believe that we kind of made this happen today, Jeff. And in my self-reflection, I was thinking about what ways can you and I push the peanut forward in terms of having these conversations, in terms of empowering women into logistics. And I think in this last 30-day period that you and I have been on this journey together, that we've learned different keywords, we've learned different practices that we can do. And today we have two veterans of the industry. And like we said, we gave them a platform for us to understand and learn from them together. They're going to give a lot of value as we see the comments blowing up today, which is amazing to kind of see. But, this is a conversation that I want to be having like tomorrow, having a few months from now, a few years from now, to kind of see the changes. And, first we have Shelley Walker, who's the president and CEO of the Women's Trucking Federation of Canada. They truly believe that in the office, under the hood, or behind the wheel, we're all a part of this puzzle together, as being pieces. And just to see the different posts and the different things that they do, different initiatives that she's involved in, breaking the barriers conference that they have every year, talking to different municipalities about how they can be basically empower women, whether it be, like we said, we talked about creating a space for them to retain employment, for them to get into different industries as well from here. I mean, as well, we have Ellen Voie, who's an amazing advocate. As everybody knows, she's one thing she shared with me is that she's been to the White House 6 times. And one of those times, she was actually the only trucking company there to actually polish that off. So think about that, right? We have people here who are just making a difference. You and I are just a little spoke on the wheel, but these people are the wheel. So with that being said, we want to invite and thank you so much to Shelley Walker and Ellen Voie for coming on the Sales Chatter this morning.
Good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you. Thank you so much for both of you to be on our podcast today. And I believe that it's a first to have two heavy hitters as yourselves on a podcast at the same time. So we're so honored to have you spend this morning with us to talk about a very, very important topic, empowering women into logistics, as well as the trucking industry.
Yeah, and that's spectacular. That's exactly what we want to do. So let's get started. I would love to hear from both of you. How did you both get involved with trucking? And then as well, I want to hear about the companies, the associations that you both have built, and seeing like the impact, like your first year to where you guys are now, and where do you guys see the growth in? I'd love to hear from Shelley, and then I'd love to hear from Ellen as well.
Well, I can tell you it's, things sure have changed in the 30 years that I've been involved in trucking. So, we have gone from women having to go into a men's washroom to access the showers because there wasn't separate showers, to where we are today, where there are men's washrooms and ladies' washrooms. And so we have come a long way, but we still have a really, really long way to go. Particularly here in Canada. In 2016, our driving population was just over 3%. Recent stats for 2021 shows that just over 4%. We haven't even gained 1% from 2016 to 2021 stats. So it just goes to show you that we still have a really, really long way to go in promoting and encouraging women into our industry. And, I think part of the problem is that we're so worried about the current driver shortage today that we're not looking at the future, and the future is our kids. So we need to start getting back into the school systems and promote our incredible industry to youth.
Yes, and a person that comes to mind who started Next Generation is Lindsay Trent, who is doing exactly that, bringing that knowledge and that capability inside schools to help them to understand about trucking, women in trucking, and I know that she is at many different events throughout the country. So yes, I firmly believe that that's definitely necessary, Shelley, in order to move the peanut forward, sort of speaking. What do you think is preventing women from getting in the industry? What's the perception that needs to be changed?
Well, we just, I just recently heard some new data that speaks to that in particular. And for a lot of women, I guess it's fear factor, fear of the unknown, fear for safety in a male dominated industry. So, we have a lot to change in how the general public perceives our industry. Um, I don't know what you see down in the US on the news, but up here, I mean, there's always wheel offs, there's rollovers, there's accidents. We've got fatality accidents today in Northern Ontario. So, if we don't start getting more media coverage about the good and positive that we do, we're never going to encourage people in here. Never.
I agree. And one thing that comes to mind, when you go into truck stops, you got that high confidence level in men that go there and do whatever they need to do. But for a woman, I would think going into a truck stop, there's a little bit of being tentative because it's primarily men that are in there. They may get harassed. I mean, I've known women in the past that were truck drivers that mentioned that, and it's a shame because they kind of feel uncomfortable. What are your thoughts on that?
We need more male allies is what we need, because without men supporting and uplifting us, we're never going to encourage more women in. That is a big thing for me. It's pretty bad when we have to tell female drivers, it's not safe to get in your truck when it's dark outside. Keep your head up high, walk straight. Don't look down at your feet. Don't be looking at your phone when you're walking in and out of a truck stop. So, there's different things that women do differently that are out on the road. I have somebody that's a driver trainer. What she tells female drivers that she's teaching is stop at this truck stop, get your fuel, run in and get your stuff, but don't park there. Get back in your truck and go down the road and find another place to park so nobody's seen you. So it's pretty bad that we have to tell women they need to do that. We shouldn't have to.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And we had a guest on our show not so long ago, Ellen Voie, and she said a word that really touched both Ryan and my heart. We're humans. We're not male. We're not female. We are humans, and we should be supporting each other in everything that we do within the logistics industry. And we find ourselves protecting our own interest. One woman even said that women didn't belong in this space. That's hideous. That's horrendous. Maybe back 30, 40 years ago, when women weren't in the industry as much as they are now, we still need that growth. And I know that you would agree with that wholeheartedly. But how do we overcome that? How do we get the male side of the business to support the female side?
I think we're seeing more and more where men are speaking up about women in the industry. I think, the younger generation has a lot different outlook than what we do, right? So that they view roles differently. They don't like being told this is a man's thing and this is a woman's thing. They want equality, and equality to them is everybody. So I think, as we're changing demographics, we're getting more of our young people in. We will make lot better world for us in trucking, right? So it's getting that acceptance. I think that's important.
And that's one of the most important things is having that acceptance and knowing that this is a path. That's the one thing that I talk, and I'd love to get Ellen's point of view as well. Is that what changed? Because you've, like you said, I believe that women in trucking has been around for about 16 years. What change have you seen, whether it be like your friends or anything like that, in terms of having that conversation about trucking? I know that you do have a show every Saturday morning on Sirius, and you have people calling in. What's the feedback like that we kind of see with the new generation coming, Ellen?
Well, first of all, I'm going to answer your first question about starting in the industry. I actually earned my diploma in traffic and transportation management in 1980. So I've been in the industry 44 years, which blows my mind. Not a driver like Shelley. I've always been in the other side of it. I did get my CDL just to see if I could do it, but I have so much respect for Shelley and all the people who actually move the freight. But so the biggest change I've seen in the industry in the 16 years that women in trucking has been in existence. First of all, when I started the organization, we were at about 3% female drivers in the US, and we're now at almost 14%. We're at 13.7% over the road drivers. That's over the road. But the biggest change that I've seen is 16 years ago, companies would say, we don't care about their age, their gender, or their ethnicity. We just want a good driver to fill that seat. And I didn't have any data at that time. I had to extrapolate data from the automobile drivers. And so I would ask everywhere I go, I'd say, do you have that broken down by gender? Companies didn't even know what percentage of their drivers were female, what percentage of their safety directors, their CEOs. They didn't track that sort of thing. And now diversity, equity, and inclusion is the buzzword. You hear that all the time, and people are really working hard to get more gender diversity. But 16 years ago, they were more gender blind, and they'd say, well, we just want the best person. But then I'd start pointing out, like Shelley said, hey, you don't have restroom. We don't have showers for female drivers at some of the truck stops. They were more locker room type showers, or the trucks were designed for men, and the manufacturers will tell you that they were designed for men and in those days, and uniforms. And so facilities. And so it really wasn't a level playing field. And all women want is a level playing field. They don't want special treatment. They don't want road parking. It's just treat us the same, but make sure that we have access to the same opportunities as men. So now that I can stand up in front of audiences and say, hey, American Transportation Research Institute found that male commercial drivers are 20% more likely to be involved in a crash in every statistically significant area than female drivers. And so carriers are like, oh, wow, women are safer drivers. Yes, because women are risk averse. And also I hear this anecdotally, women are better with paperwork, better with customers, better with the equipment. I can't quantify that, but those are things that I hear from companies. I also want to touch on the question about, Shelley, you talked about next generations. We created the Girl Scout transportation patch. I know it's Girl Guides in Canada, and over 1,100 girls have earned this patch. And along with the activity, we have the curriculum, and we have a book called Scouting for Cookies, and it talks about how the grain goes from the field to the bakery in a truck, bakery to packaging in a truck, packaging to warehousing and that sort of thing. And we also created a truck driver doll. In fact, oops, that side. If you can see the doll sitting on my credenza there, it's a doll so that kids can start thinking about careers in the trucking industry. And so we do need to reach into the next generation. And I know Lindsay Trent, she was one of our finalists for the Influential Woman in Trucking Award. She's doing great things. So we do have to get younger people thinking about these careers. So, and kudos to you, Shelley, for what you're doing in Canada. I do need to mention that about 10% of our members are in Canada. We have a Canadian image team. We do an event at Truck World. And so we love our Canadians as well.
Thank you. Yeah, we got to show a little love, and it's amazing what both of you've done. I want to talk to both of you about networking because the conversations that we've had with various of our guests is that yeah, they've been able to go to networking events and they've been able to connect with powerful women. I know that Ellen, you have like your amazing event that you do have in November, which you had over 1,800 people last year and continues to grow. And Shelley as well, you have an event that is for that. Shelley, I'd love to get your point of view on terms of networking, what we can do, and just not women alone, but men supporting that initiative as well.
Well, networking is really important regardless of what industry you're in, right? And I think, some people think that women are out to bash men, but when they have these events that appear to be for women only, we encourage men to come to the events. We want them there. We want to hear what they have to say, because we learn from each other. It's not one-sided. So the networking events and bringing men is really, really important. And I think, maybe something like we have been toying with is the challenge for every woman that comes to our event. We challenge you to bring a male ally with you to our event. And I think if we do that, we will grow better relationships, we'll nurture better, and we'll grow better.
That's amazing. And Ellen, I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well.
Well, my very first board of directors was all women. We weren't very diverse, but now my board is half men, because if you don't have men in the conversation, we can't have, like Shelley said, we can't just have women talking to each other, because we're not going to solve problems. We need men to be part of the conversation as well. And at our conference, as you said, we had almost 1,800, but it's 85% women, which is for a trucking event, that's pretty amazing. But it's still 15% men, and about 15% of our members are men who join women in trucking because they support our mission. So I agree with Shelley. We have to have men included in our discussions, and it's never about degrading men or saying that women are better or anything like that. It's not. It's just saying we want to be part of this conversation and we want to work with you to bring more women in. And how can anyone disagree with the data? I mean, in Canada, if women only make up 4% of the drivers, then Shelley, your response is, well, how can you disagree with that data? Why wouldn't you want more women as drivers, especially with their safety records? So, if men support the mission, then they'll jump in and say, I believe in what you're doing and I want to see more gender diversity.
Yes, I agree, and I am one of them. And we tried to do this over the last month, and we're not done yet. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg for us. We're going to continue to support and do whatever we possibly can to get women noticed and try to create a level playing field, because it's so lopsided right now. And you know this, it's been like that forever. I mean, you can take a look at your association. You mentioned 85% women, 15% men. And now you look at the work industry, it's almost the complete opposite, but it's a little better. But when you look at women, all women in industries and C-level positions, only 1 in 4 in that C-level position, or 25%. And then women of color, only 1 in 20, or 5%. That's hideous. That's hideous. It needs to change. Things need to be talked about and discussed. And men have a great part in that, in helping women to get noticed and creating that level playing field. What are your thoughts on that, Ellen?
Well, definitely. I mean, and this is Women's History Month, and so I'm so glad that we're having these conversations. And I think success will be the day that we aren't saying, well, she's the first woman to do this or the first woman to be recognized for that. When it's just she's the first person, and when we stop saying female truck driver, when we stop saying female CEOs, I mean, and I always like to say, we'll have reached our goal when nobody bats an eye when a woman gets out of the cab of a truck. So, I mean, right, Shelley? I bet you still get comments from people, like, you drove that thing?
Yeah, I would agree with you. It shouldn't be whether it's he or she. It should be a driver. no matter what sex that they are. It's a job that needs to be done, and it doesn't matter who is doing it as long as they do that job well.
Correct. Absolutely. Although I don't want to go back to the days where they think it's a level playing field and it's not. That's, we still need to point out, and the most powerful discussions are when you bring female drivers into the office, or have an event and ask them, what are we doing right? What could we be doing differently? And you'll get some amazing answers, because drivers are very very open to discussing and stating their opinions. So it's basically just ask them.
Yeah, they're very outspoken, let's put it that way, and not afraid to share their thoughts with anyone.
And rightly so.
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest question out there that needs to be answered, and both Ryan and I are going to work on that, is how can men support women more than what they are doing right now? We know that there's a need, and it's not going to be a quick fix. I mean, if you look at the history of women in the workforce, it's been decades. Are we going in the right direction? Yes. It's where we were, where we are today, where we need to be, and how are we going to get to that next level? That's the discussion that needs to be had. I don't know how. I think I read, is it 600 women drivers in the United States, or is it more, Helen?
Oh, no, almost 200,000.
200,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Out of how many?
3.2 million.
Well, there you go. We need to increase that a little bit more.
Yeah. So, Jeff, let me answer that question. So what can men do to be allies? I was on a panel with the CEO of a logistics company, and he was talking about how he has a lot of women as CEOs or, high-level executives. And he said, I have one woman who's very emotional. And my thought was that he was going to say she needed to learn to fit in an environment. He didn't. What he said was, I had to learn to get used to that. So for men to be allies, it's to accept how women are different, how we make decisions differently. Women will make decisions differently than men, because men will take the choices, narrow them down, and make a fast decision, where women will take the choices, say, did I miss anything? Call some other people, explore other, opportunities, and it will take longer to make a decision. Now, neither one is right and neither one is wrong. But if men value quick decision-making, hierarchy, a very environment that's risk-taking, women will not feel as comfortable in that environment. And so you have to create an environment where women are just as comfortable in the way we think, in the way we make decisions, in the way we act, and bring our whole self to the office, instead of saying we need to fit into a men's environment. And for an example, women will do it. Let's take uniforms. So many companies have men's uniforms and they just give women smaller sizes. Women will wear them. They'll wear them, right, Shelley?
Nope.
Yeah. No. Well, but typically they'll say, well, I'm working in a male environment. The companies that really value gender diversity will say, we're getting women's cut uniforms. We're getting things to accommodate women. So, right, Shelley? I mean, it's the company that really recognizes that women are different are the ones that are going to be ahead.
That's spectacular. No, that I went through that. I remember when I worked at McDonald's, it was exactly that way. And that was over 15, 17 years ago. With that, I want to get to a question from the audience for both of you. For Shelley, let's see here. So Centurion Trucking brings up a question here regarding female drivers. For long haul driving, do you think the heavy weights of steel truck trains in the winter pose an issue for drivers?
No. It's just, it's heavier jewelry, but we learn how to deal with them. Many women swing chains. I've actually been pulled over to the side of the road and have had to help a few gentlemen put their chains on. So, no, chains aren't an issue.
I love how you mentioned that chains are jewelry. I love that. I really do.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some.
What we refer to them as, right? So I had to go out and swing the jewelry. So
there you go. I love that.
I love that a lot. You know what? Maybe for this year, for like my wife's birthday, I'll just get her some chains instead of some diamonds, and be like, you know what? It's jewelry.
Oh, I don't think that would go over. So
I don't think
I'll tell her. Shelley told me. I'll tell Shelley. That's awesome. There. One thing that I've learned from both of you is you both are bringing initiatives for everybody. Like you said, gender diversity for both associations. We talk about men and women as well. How is it important to look at like other less marginalized communities as well? Let's say the LGTB plus community, as well as like colors of race and things like that. How does diversity play into what both of your missions are?
Well, I can tell you, I don't know what it's like down in the US, but unfortunately, up here in Canada, truck drivers are very racist. And it's taking a lot to change that. Um, Even as far as companies, we have quite a few members that are from the LGBTQ plus community. They just want to be treated like everybody else, and sometimes that is really difficult for them to do. I've had a few where they've been told, when you're at work, we expect you to look like a man, or we expect you to look like a woman. Well, that's not acceptable, and we have to learn to be more acceptable. Um, I think it's confusing for people, but if you ask them questions, they're really willing to help you understand their life and where they're at, and what they want to be called and how they want to be addressed. When we're talking about pronouns. So I think just we have to listen more. We need to be less judgmental.
I'd like to respond to that.
Of course.
So we actually put together an LGBTQ plus I'll just say plus task force a few years ago. We changed our application to a male, female, and then non-binary option. And some people have checked that box. And we also had a webinar from the Humanitarian Association that actually monitors gender diversity and acceptance in different industries. And for Pride Month, we had a transgender driver who was our member of the month, and told her story. But and at our conference in November, we had a panel that was moderated by Dr. Jennifer Hurley of Trans New York, and it was a panel of people from the LGBTQIA community. And so, what other trucking industry event are you going to see a panel like that? And I have to tell you, Dr. Hurley kept saying over and over, she's transgender. She said, I feel so accepted here, Ellen. I feel so accepted. So I will tell you, Shelley, it's a lot different in the United States. Companies, we have actually started those conversations with companies. And I had a CEO of a company come up to me and say, I know it was hard for you to bring this up, but he said, it made us have a discussion, and our first transgender driver applied for a job, and we were ready because we had those discussions. So I think here in the United States, it's much more prevalent. And they're much more free to be who they are. So I'm very proud of the fact that at Women in Trucking, we have really promoted a lot more diversity. In regard to ethnicity, we have a lot of Hispanic and Black drivers, especially female drivers. And what's really cool about that is when you see these women, we have a salute to women behind the wheel coming up in a couple of weeks at the Mid-America Trucking Show in Louisville, Kentucky. And we honor female drivers. We have a big event. We have chocolate fountains. We're giving away a truck. We'll announce our driver of the year. And so lots of Black and Hispanic female drivers. So we welcome everybody. It really doesn't matter your age, your gender, your ethnicity. It really doesn't matter. We just embrace everyone.
That's spectacular, and that's the conversation that we need to have, because in my thinking of this, empowering women into logistics, we got to include everybody, right? We can't just pick one. We want to pick just the Snickers bar from the thing, but we can't forget about the Smarties or the O. Henrys. We got to include everybody, which I think is really important. Question for both of you that I think is really important: what does the future look like in the next 5 to 10 years that you hope to see in our industry?
Well, I'll start since I'm on the screen. I think you're going to see a lot more vehicles that are going to have a lot more technology on them, which will make the industry safer. You're also going to see a huge switch to alternative fuels, a much more environmentally friendly industry, because in the States, they're actually requiring electric vehicles requiring non-combustion engine type vehicles. So you're going to see the industry change. You're going to see the push for autonomous vehicles, although I don't think you're going to see a driverless truck in my lifetime as a common, occurrence on the road. But you're going to see a lot more of the technology that goes on these vehicles put on the trucks. So I think it's going to be a lot more technologically advanced vehicle, which makes the job safer, the trucks safer, the roads safer, and our drivers safer.
That's amazing. And I would love to get Shelley's opinion on that as well, what the future looks like.
Well, I agree with some of what Ellen had to say, but I can tell you that from a driver's perspective, we are not looking forward to the new technology because there is still lots of technology in our trucks today that does not work properly. So it's not so much being opposed to it, it's being opposed to being the guinea pigs that it's being tested on, right? So we need to do a lot more testing of technology before we just slap them in the truck and say, okay, guys, this is it. Where you go with it. And I think being from the older group of drivers, you're going to see a lot more resistance to technology than what we already are, because I'm now losing control over my vehicle, right? So you are taking away control of the vehicle from me and you are giving it to a computer. So I think that's a big learning curve. And we'll have to see how it's going to go. Autonomous trucks, I agree with Ellen, probably never going to see them in my lifetime. And I don't think we're ever going to be to the point where it's never, ever going to require a driver. Who's going to open doors? Who's going to put chains on when it's required? So I don't think you're ever going to see them without a driver. And if we're going to do that, let's just go to the Jetson phase and just do away with trucks altogether.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you to a certain extent on that. But how about women in trucking? Where do you see the future going in the next 5-10 years, Shelley?
I think we're going to see a lot more women moving up into higher roles. And that's really what we need. We need more leaders in the industry in the C-suite that are female. I was talking to a gentleman that owns a trucking company. He's recently has a couple ladies in the office, and he was telling me that he's learned a lot from them, and the fact that they have more empathy for the drivers. He says, but I have one in particular. He said she can be this mothering soul, and she's like mothering you, but the next minute she's a boss, and like you're going to do it, and you're going to do it now. Right. He said, so they're very flexible that way. He says, whereas guys, he said, we're just like, do the job. He says, we really don't have any empathy. So I think, we need that. We need more women in the higher roles because we have issues that are affecting women in our offices at management level. So they need somebody above that's going to be able to understand. Some of the biggest barriers we hear is that, men don't understand female issues. Right. So we need to take that head on. And the best way to do that is by getting some women up into your C-suite.
I definitely agree. And I agree on one thing, that definitely women are better listeners than men. And I get that told to me by my wife. So, we do have to become better listeners to understand the other side's issues and problems that they have, and try to be a little bit more empathetic. I think we lack in that area where women excel. It's just part of what they do and how they do things. This question is for Ellen. Ellen, where do you see women in trucking go in the next 5 to 10 years?
So as an association, I'll tell you that we are starting chapters so that we can keep the conversation going during the year, not just in November when we have our conference. And we've already got one chapter started in Pennsylvania. So we want people to be meeting throughout the year and keeping the conversation going. And the other thing is growing internationally. We get so many requests from other countries on, how do we get more women into the industry, especially focusing on the driver population. So, we've got members in Sweden and Australia and New Zealand and a lot in Africa, believe it or not, and Poland. I noticed somebody mentioned Poland on the chat. So we want to expand our influence throughout the world so that other countries can use our resources and our, the information that we've gathered over the past 16 years and increase their gender diversity as well.
See, there we go. We're moving forward, and by you creating chapters, like we had Kim, who was on our episode this week, and she's built up something. I would love to see you guys work together as well, and kind of build it from there. Ellen, I asked you this off stage, so I'm gonna ask it to both of you as we close out this show today, which we're so thankful to have you both. So I'll let you go first, so I can give Shelley some time to think about it. What is a question that you hoped we would ask you this morning?
You asked me that at the beginning, and so ask me what I do for fun.
Okay. All right, we'll bring you on. We're not going to answer that today. That's the reason why. So we're going to bring you on, and then we'll make sure we do that. What about you, Shelley?
That's a difficult one.
Yep.
I guess I'm going to have to agree. I have to go with kind of what Ellen said. Ask me what I do for fun.
Okay, so we'll book some time and we'll get you guys back on and we'll do a fun episode. Fun. We have Fun Day Fridays, so today's actually Fun Day Fridays, the episode of our show. So want to thank you both for taking your time out of your busy schedules to spend your time with us. You can actually become a member at both your associations. Ellen, can you tell everybody how we can get involved with your association, the networking opportunities? How can people get a hold of you and basically network with you as well?
Sure. It's womenintrucking.org. And it's just Ellen at womenintrucking.org. I need to mention that we also have a scholarship foundation, and we give scholarships to women seeking careers in the trucking industry, and either as diesel techs in the area of safety, drivers, or what we call leadership. So any women listening who wants to advance her career, and we don't care if you're in Canada, we've given scholarships to people in Africa. It doesn't matter, but we have scholarships. The Scholarship Foundation is actually accepting scholarships right now. And so we would encourage you to apply, and you can find that on womenintrucking.org as well. So, and come to our conference in November. I hope to see you guys there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Shelley, let us know about how people can become members of the Women's Trucking Federation of Canada, any cool things that you got coming up, and how can people get a hold of you?
Well, you can go to our website, wtfc.ca. It's everything's on there, from being a corporate member to individual membership. Come out to see us at Bridging the Barriers. We will be at a lot of truck shows this summer at various locations. We are now starting back up with our career fairs. So we will be engaging our youth and high school students at various locations across the province of Ontario right now. So, and I think, we have the wonderful world of the internet, as we all found out through COVID, and being able to do these webinars. And I think, they're also a great place to network with people that are from all over the country or all over the world. They're a wealth of knowledge. And sometimes we learn a lot from other people. So, and you can always reach me at Shelley at wtfc.ca, or you can look me up on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And thank you, ladies, again. And like you kind of said, we have this free university that people don't take advantage of. You have these amazing resources online. Definitely take a look at it. I know Jeff and I were huge advocates of what you both do. And thank you for that. There was no two better people that we could have had for our finale today. So we're excited to have you guys back on in the future to talk about what you guys like to do for fun. To the audience, I want to thank you, everybody, from day one. You guys have been so loyal, sending the comments, sending us messages, sending us love. So if you found value, which I know you did, please like, comment, subscribe, share this with a friend, share this with a neighbor, share this with the Amazon driver, because we both know from what Shelley said, you got some jewelry coming to your door today. So let them know what we can do from our end here. We'll hit the replays back at 2 and 6 p.m. Eastern time, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And then we'll be back at it Monday. We actually got a special announcement for next week. We're ending empowerment of women in logistics, but we're not done. So with that being said, we'll leave you guys on a cliffhanger. Cowboy, take us home, my man.
Yes, thank you so much, Shelley and Ellen, for joining us. I have to pinch myself. I have no idea how we were able to do that. I know both of you are so very busy in what you do best, supporting the women in both countries, making sure that they're leveling up and doing whatever is possible to help them in their journey. So we appreciate that too. We can assure you that you'll always have our support here. And we hope to have you back on in the very near future. As Ryan said, fun day. We need to have those every once in a while. So with that said, thank you so much for joining us today. Today was the finale of Empowering Women into Logistics. We had two big heavy hitters in the industry. Again, we thank them. So make sure to check us out next week here on Sales Chatter Live at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. With that said, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bodacious Cowboy out.